Hollywood has sprung a lot of leaks over the years. It seems like we always know everything about everything before the official announcement happens, especially when it comes to the biggest franchises. But even in the pre-internet days, studios struggled to keep their biggest news out of the papers. In this video, we're going to look at one of the most dearly guarded secrets in Hollywood history, the Darth Vader reveal in The Empire Strikes Back. Back in the 70s and 80s, the twist that Darth Vader was Luke's dad was a huge twist, and George Lucas knew it. The way the character had been built up in the first Star Wars movies would make it an earth-shattering reveal. Twists like this feel quaint now, but were basically unheard of in those days, and Lucas definitely wanted to make sure it had the maximum possible impact on the audience. Only 3 people in the whole world knew about the twist when he first conceived it: Mark Hamill, director Irvin Kershner, and George Lucas himself. Talking with StarWars.com, Lucas described the sheer sensitivity of this information. It wasn't written in the script, and even Hamill found out about it the day he was set to shoot the scene. But once the scene was shot, knowledge of the secret started to spread. Naturally, everyone who happened to be on set that day now knew the truth about Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. It was only inevitable that the knowledge would spread from there. The next person to find out off the set was James Earl Jones, who provided Vader's voice in voiceover. When he recorded that line in studio, the audio engineering team learned of the twist as well and were sworn into secrecy. Movies are big productions and you can only contain a secret to a degree, but still, Lucas brags that by the time the movie was in theaters, only 12 people knew who Darth Vader really was, and so Lucas had succeeded in delivering heart attacks to cinemagoers all over the world with one of the most iconic twists in all of movie history. There was one instance where knowledge of the twist almost got out of hand. David Prowse was the actor who wore the Darth Vader suit on set, so he found out about his son the same day that Mark Hamill did. Prowse's mistake was accidentally saying the thing out loud to the press. The word didn't spread like it would have in 2022, but Lucas was definitely really mad about what happened. In fact, Prowse is regretting his slip-up to this day. He has yet to be forgiven by Lucas, and he's even been banned from all Star Wars events. We can see why Lucas is mad, but that's a long time to hold a grudge. You now have to wonder if you could hide a twist like that nowadays. George Lucas thinks it could be possible if only 3 people knew about it. But the fact is, the way movies are made has changed a lot since then. It might not even be possible to contain a secret to just 3 people anymore. Star Wars itself is one of the hardest franchises to keep under wraps. While creatives working for Disney have a fair bit of creative control, Mickey's eye does watch over everything. There's a reason why the CEO of Disney always seems to know what's going on with Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and many people under him would know as well. The biggest driver of spoiler culture these days is the internet. David Prowse had to personally spill the beans to another person who worked for the media, but leaks come a lot more easily these days. An intern in the right place at the right time could overhear something and leak it through a social networking account that doesn't contain any identifying information. There's big money to be made as a source of leaks too. Head on over to the spoiler subreddits on the MCU and Star Wars, and you'll quickly memorize the names of the biggest leakers in the community. They all have Patreon accounts or other places where you can donate to them for the hard work they do. But it doesn't feel like spoiler culture has made stories worse. What's become clear is that screenwriters have adapted their storytelling techniques to account for the spoilers. Damon Lindelof, in talking about his Watchmen show at HBO, described the approach he had to take towards twists. When writing a surprise turn in a script today, you have to make the surprise so impactful that knowing about it beforehand doesn't diminish the impact. Watchmen was a masterclass in that sort of writing, but it wasn't the only one. People knew well in advance that half of our favorite heroes would get snapped to dust at the end of Infinity War, but they were still left speechless at the end of the movie. We knew for years that Robert Downey Jr. would be ending his MCU tenure after Endgame, but that didn't make Tony's sacrifice hit less hard. In fact, we said before that Darth Vader being Luke's dad would be a pretty minor twist in 2022. It's true that audiences are getting desensitized to twists, but that doesn't have anything to do with spoilers. It's more to do with the fact that today's moviegoers are more informed than the moviegoers of the 80s. We've all seen the cliches, so writers have to work a little harder to surprise us, but when they put in the effort, they get the results. There's more to movies than just the surprise reveals, and there's a lot more that made The Empire Strikes Back a classic than just who Luke's dad ended up being. Whether anyone got to experience the twist the right way or not, it's a landmark movie that helped cement Star Wars as a franchise with decades of staying power. In other news, there have been a bunch of new announcements in the Star Wars universe recently, but not for the big screen. First up, the Kira trilogy ends with a hidden empire. If you haven't been reading Dark Horse's Star Wars comics over the years, you're missing out on some amazing content, with more on the horizon. Set to wrap up his Kira series, Charles Soule will be releasing Hidden Empire in November of this year. The trilogy focused on Kira, a character we were first introduced to in Solo. Leader of the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate, she has a few complicated romantic entanglements with Han Solo before he settled down with the princess. Her story, as well as the story of the Crimson Dawn, has been chronicled by Soule across War of the Bounty Hunters and Crimson Reign. While Solo wasn't the most popular movie in the Disney era of Star Wars, we thought it was pretty cool, and the whole point of the expanded universe is allowing us to see more of characters who can't quite get blockbuster movies for themselves. You have a few months to catch up on Kira's story and let that be the start of your deep dive into the Star Wars universe. Up next, Fantasy Flight Games is releasing yet another Star Wars card game. FFG have long been the stewards of Star Wars on the tabletop, and they've released a few card games for them before. Star Wars, the deck-building game, slated for release next March, is going to be different in a few ways. While Fantasy Flight has made competitive card games in the past, they've taken a hard turn into the co-op genre recently. Arkham Horror, Marvel Champions, and Lord of the Rings are all cooperative games. That being said, the last Star Wars card game, Destiny, was from that competitive era, existing alongside their hugely popular Android Netrunner. All the games we mentioned just now have one thing in common: they're living card games. That's Fantasy Flight's term for a type of collectible card game where the contents of card packs aren't randomized like they are in Magic. But this upcoming game isn't a living card game. It's a fully standalone release that might get expansions in the future. Living card games have been Fantasy Flight's best way to monetize their major IPs, so it's interesting to see them do something different for this Star Wars game. Though we're sure that this game will be good, and we'll end up sinking a lot of money into it somehow. Our final segment today is about the upcoming second season of Star Wars Visions. If you haven't watched this series yet, this is basically a Star Wars anime that tells a variety of short stories. Fans had been dreaming of a Star Wars anime, and this one was produced by some of the best Japanese animation houses. With this second season though, the production is about to mix it up. Executive producer James Waugh told Deadline that while season 1 was fully anime, that was never his intention for the series. Just like each episode tells a different story, he also wanted to showcase different styles of animation throughout the show. The second season will be produced by a variety of animation studios around the world, and each one will be allowed to put their own spin on the aesthetic of the series. That's it for today's video. What are your favorite Star Wars movies and twists? And let us know what your favorite movie twists are overall. That's it for today's video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.